Just want to remind you guys, this episode is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? Well, guys, there's been a lot that's happened for the Indianapolis Colts in the last 24 plus hours. Wanted to welcome on a guy who's right in the middle of all of it right now, Kevin Bowen from The Fan. Kevin, Merry Christmas to you. Hope it was a great one for you and your family. And man, holy cow, what a turn of events really in the last 24 hours after the Colts fall to the Giants. Man, I feel like there's so much we can talk about just packed into this little time frame here. But first off, your impressions from yesterday's game, and really embarrassment of a game in a lot of ways, from a team that the Colts were facing that was right there contending for that number one overall pick. So your impressions, man, of yesterday's game.
Yeah, well, I'll start here. Hope everybody had a great holiday season and certainly Happy New Year, and I appreciate you having me, Cody. Yeah, I mean, you use the word embarrassment, whip out any word that could fall in line with that, and you'd be exactly accurate with it. It's on the Mount Rushmore, certainly, of just pathetic performances for this franchise, and really just all too common during this part of the year against these quarterbacks. Drew Lock and Taylor Heineke and Jake Browning, and you go back to the Jacksonville game to end 2021. I mean, those are three Colts teams that are playoff whatever in the hunt, certainly had chances to obviously make the playoffs in a couple of those seasons, and then to to bleep the bed, to use a DeForest Buckner phrase, is just spot on. And not just do that, I mean, lose all those games by double digits, just the massive offensive performances that you've allowed in all of those games. It's just you're at a loss, and it's just so disappointing, and it's really disheartening and pretty dejecting, I think, for the fan base.
Yeah, and then you obviously saw Kevin yesterday and even a little bit today, former players going on and blasting this organization for where they currently are. Obviously we know Marlon Jackson, what he said. Obviously Pat McAfee's big, thing on X yesterday, and he talked about it on the show today. And I know there's been other players who have voiced their concerns as well. I mean, I guess, what do you take from that, Kevin? Former guys that were a part of your franchise that were very successful at what they did and part of winning cultures in the past. And you have them coming out publicly and trashing your organization, essentially, and where you currently stand in terms of the culture and the coaches and the players and just everything around the current state of your organization. So what in your mind, what does that mean if you're Jim Irsay, if you're the Colts brass right now? What does that mean for your franchise right now, and how obviously people are viewing you? And obviously now that you're eliminated for a fourth straight year, I mean, moving forward, Kevin, what does this mean for your organization, and where do you go from here?
Yeah, Cody, I think that's a key element in now trying to kind of move to that side of the conversation. Me personally, I think Chris Ballard and Gus Bradley both deserve to go. I think that's pretty clear. Frankly, I don't think either of them should have gotten to this far in the 2024 cycle at their current jobs. But we probably have got to just move into Jim Irsay's zeitgeist, if you will. And okay, how does he view this? And you bring up the ex-players. I mean, Irsay cares so deeply about that. Think about the only time we've seen Irsay in the last 4 months on the field for the Ring of Honor ceremony with Dallas Clark. Why? Because, that player obviously means a lot to him, and certainly all of those players that were on the field that day mean a whole lot to him. So, I think about the last 24 hours, I can point to plenty of whatever, Chris Ballard or Shane Steichen, however you want to sum it up, related tidbits and numbers and factoids that, to me, deserve acknowledgement and deserve, in Ballard's case, not getting a ninth year. But now I'm trying to say, okay, what about Irsay? Well, in the last 24 hours, Cody, you've had one of the more embarrassing performances that the franchise has had in quite a while. And then you've had, meaningful ex-players come out and I think very staunchly, speak about your franchise in ways that Jim Irsay's never had to experience, really, in his 30 years as being the sole owner. So that, to me, is just a different layer to it. It's an additional layer. I think you can make the argument it's the most damning layer. When again you factor in Ursay and what makes him tick, what energizes him, what really frustrates him, I guess in this case. So I do think it's a good point that you bring up, and it probably is a little bit more Ursay related. So as sick as it might sound and as crazy as it might sound, there was part of me watching that game yesterday that if you wanted change, this is the 60-minute effort you needed to see. You needed to see sheer embarrassment against the worst team in the NFL, and I would say you got that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you heard from DeForest Buckner today talking about the changes that will be happening, right? And obviously, we don't know anything. Nothing has happened as of right now. But I don't know, Kevin. I guess before that game, I kind of was on the train of, okay, you're probably going to get Ballard another year. You might fire Gus Bradley. I think that's probably a must. You might get Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson for another year. But man, after just seeing how everything has escalated in the past 24 hours, I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, I'm like, I don't know if I feel so strongly as I felt maybe 48 hours ago about the future of some of these, people, whether coaches, players, coach or upper management, stuff like that. I don't know where you stand on it right now, but do you think in Ursay's mind, and again, no, Ursay can be very unpredictable, obviously, but do you think a performance like this maybe pushes some of these guys maybe off a little bit earlier than maybe if it was a game where the Colts, took care of business and, they finish, with 9 wins or something like that? Do you think in Ursay's mind, this changed anything about maybe more moves that maybe weren't imminent before, but maybe will be coming?
Well, as you alluded to, Cody, trying to predict Jim Irsay is a game that you're not going to win at. So I be careful. But
Right.
I didn't have Jeff Saturday appearing on our radio show at 9:45 one morning and then being named the Colts head coach 90 minutes later. So um, I would caution and throw up a little bit of a yellow flag there. But again, I guess it kind of goes back to the point I just brought up. What's changed in the last 24 hours? Chris Ballard's resume, I would argue, hasn't substantially changed. I mean, not really. I mean, I guess you've added one more non-playoff year, even though it was a long shot to begin with. But again, the embarrassment, the ex-players, and then to take it a step further, one thing that I do want to bring up, Cody, is like, okay, let's focus on Irsay further. What to me would bother him, or what has bothered him in the past, is embarrassment in his own stadium. Okay. Saturday is the 10-year anniversary. 10-year anniversary of your last home playoff game. I mean, I can go through the list of events Lucas Oil Stadium has held since the Colts last hosted a home playoff game. Boom Herron caught 10 balls in that game, and Jarrell Freeman was your leading tackler. That's
Wow.
quite a while ago. So every AFC South team has hosted multiple playoff games in that time frame. Again, how is that not bothersome to you? And I'm talking financially. I mean, you're missing out on a big, big payday in your own building. And then, just look at the crowds this season inside of Lucas Oil. You could certainly point to it has been a good road crowd, a lot of driving distance teams, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't look like that. And, I thought Tennessee last week I thought it was a preseason environment in there, and I would fully expect the same thing coming up on Sunday. Empty seats, again, financially bothersome. I mean, now we're getting into more of Irsay related stuff. And then the last thing I would add is, the Colts don't deserve to be in prime time, and they haven't been in prime time. Hell, the one time they were flexed into prime time, they, once again bleep the bed, if I could use the Buckner phrase, against the Vikings. So those things, again, financially driven, eyeball driven, very specific stuff that has triggered Irsay in the past, has bothered him in the past. Those are alive and well for his franchise. Again, now, part of me doesn't feel the need to list out all of these things, but again, I'm trying to put myself into now Irsay's side of it, and even when I do that, I still come to the same conclusion of, man, how do you not do something? But if we go off his public comments, and Chris Ballard is under contract through 2026, and Steichen's 28 or 29. I mean, all of that could maybe lead to a different answer.
Well, the 2024
NFL season for the Indianapolis Colts is in full swing. And with that, wanted to share the sponsor of today's video, Prize Picks.
When it comes to Prize Picks, this is going to be a great way for you guys, especially, to check out some of the stuff that Prize Picks has.
You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You heard me right. Only 4 correct picks. You can win 100 times your money, guys, on Prize Picks. Be sure to sign up today and get $50 off instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed.
So if you're looking specifically for the Colts stuff, that's definitely something you guys should check out. But if you're looking for, like me, more NFL stuff, there's all sorts of stats and stuff that you can check out and make your picks. And there's definitely guys that are very consistent, like Jonathan Taylor against the Houston Texans, that you really feel like you can probably feel pretty good about overall, right? And there's some other ones where you're like, I don't know if I would take the over on that. I don't know if I would pick them to hit that margin, right? So, guys, be sure to go check out all that stuff on Prize Picks. It's only a couple examples. There's all the different odds that you could hope for when it comes to that for Prize Picks. So I highly encourage you guys to go check that out, but definitely excited for this season. And hopefully you guys will be following along with us and everything with Prize Picks and what they do.
So be sure to download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Like I said, guys, it's a great way to continue to stay in with week to week life of the NFL, specifically with your favorite team, the Indianapolis Colts. So be sure to do that. Be sure to check out Prize Picks. And remember, Prize Picks, run your game.
Yeah, and I guess just kind of thinking about, to your point about, Tennessee game and probably going to be the Jacksonville game where it is a preseason environment. And in a lot of these games, it's not a home field advantage. And I think about like next year, this is the question I've been wrestling around with, Kevin, and I'm curious what your answer would be to this. How do you try to sell that to the fans? Because fans are already fed up enough as it is. 4 straight years, you've missed the playoffs, going into it, and team run it back. We know very well you ran it back this year. How can you sell fans on running it back another year and expect fans to buy in? I guess the thing I've always been saying, Kevin, is like, if they don't care, why should fans care? That's kind of the point where I think we're at right now.
Yeah, it's a strong last line right there that you said. And you could make the argument that Jim Irsay's actions have indicated he doesn't care, or he's resigned to complacency. I said the phrase the other day of like, they have accepted mediocrity, but frankly, even calling the Chris Ballard era mediocre would be a bit of a compliment. When you look at the AFC finishes of 13th and 6th and 10th and 7th and 8th and 15th and 9th last year and currently 10th of the week to go. I mean, that doesn't even check out to mediocre if you want to add all that up. So, what do you sell? I mean, it's a great point. There's only so many, Anthony Richardson and shorts and a t-shirt videos you can show us in the off season that will make people, truly believe. I guess to answer it, there will have to be actions, and you'll have to have people, believe that just a bit organically, because you're gonna have to show it. And so, I think that's the difficulty that you run into. Certainly next year, as I would say on paper, I think a little bit of a tougher schedule, certainly longer road trips, some things like that. So yeah, it's a really, really fair point you bring up. And yeah, I don't know. You guarantee everybody that whatever, they'll show their kid on Simba Cam, or you allow everybody's crazy uncle to drive the motorcycle out of the tunnel. I don't know what you sell the fan base on heading into next year.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting to see, after this. I'm assuming like we won't see anything probably till after the season if it does happen. I thought maybe after yesterday's performance we might see Gus Bradley, but I think they'll probably just wait right till the end of the season and then kind of go from there. But I guess my last thing, Kevin, and again, trying to predict or say it's pretty much impossible. But I guess if I could, if you were
kind of trying to give your best guess on, kind of the likelihood that certain people are back, I suppose, like, where would you rank between the three, Shane Steichen, Gus Bradley, Chris Ballard? Where would you kind of rank them in terms of one being the most likely to come back and three being the least likely?
Okay, so Bradley, Ballard, Steichen, 1 to 3.
Yeah, so one being the most likely to come back, three being the least likely.
Well, I mean, I think you always go to the furthest rung on the ladder, and that would be Bradley in terms of just what he makes. And you can make the argument Bradley might be the most deserving to go as well. I would say, and you're asking me to give my opinion or what I think Irsay would do.
Okay, let's get both. Let's get both
Okay.
because I know they could definitely differ.
Yeah, my opinion. Actually, I'd probably put Ballard above Bradley, but they're very close. In terms of should be gone. Ballard, then Bradley. Again, a little close, and then I would say a little bit of drop to Steichen. I'm not on the. I'm trying to evaluate all these guys individually. I get that, and I've been a fan of this before. I'm probably more of a GM and head coach should be tied together, but just separate that for a second. That's what I would go with. With Irsay, throwing in the caveat of good luck predicting. Probably Bradley is a significant one. Again, I would think Ballard would be 2 on that list, but yeah, I don't. It's just odd. Obviously, we've seen him fire. We saw him fire a GM and keep the head coach, didn't we? Yeah, we saw that with Griggs into Pagano, and then we've seen him keep the GM now twice with Ballard, I guess. I don't know, however you want to look at the interim coach, but Pagano to Reich and then Reich to Steichen. So yeah, that one probably is a little bit closer to me. And I don't think Jim. First off, I don't think we have great past precedent for this instance. I still think this is different. Again, it's the worst playoff drought in 30 years. So Jim Irsay hasn't really faced this quite, head on. So that's where I'm a little bit indecisive on exactly how I would go. I would say in Irsay's eyes, certainly Bradley. You would think Ballard and then Steichen. And that is probably a little bit closer. I was close on Ballard, Bradley, 1-2. Irsay would probably be close on that, but who the hell knows?
Yeah, right. Absolutely, man. Well, it's definitely going to be interesting in the next week or so to see what does happen when it comes to this. Not just with the coaching staff and the brass, the upper brass and stuff like that, but also with some of these players as well. Especially the players like, as much as you love DeForest Buckner, those guys that are getting a little bit older, or those guys that have been under contract that have been underperforming. It'll be interesting to see kind of the personnel, coaching, all that stuff, how that does change, because Buckner did say, changes are probably coming. So it'll be interesting to see what does happen there. But Kevin, do appreciate you coming on, giving your thoughts here on a definitely notable past 24 hours here for the Indianapolis Colts. What are some stuff you've been working on or will be working on here, kind of approaching this final week of the 2024 regular season?
Yeah, I got it up on 1075thefan.com. Just posted it again. I think Chris Ballard and Gus Bradley deserve to be let go. I don't say that lightly either. I'm not. I think people that consume my content, I'm not super hot takey. I want to be honest. I have real substance behind anything that I say or write. So I've felt that way for a couple of seasons now with Ballard, and I guess even with Bradley last January. But just felt like the time was now to go ahead and put that down, and we'll see how the next couple of weeks unfold. Obviously, a ton of off-season content, and we'll be in the building coming up on Sunday one final time here for 2024.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you coming on, Kevin, and I'm sure if some news breaks here in the next couple of weeks, we'll be sure to do it again.
You bet, Cody. Happy New Year, brother.
Yep, you too. Take care.